The ground's been screaming for weeks, right? Not just a little shake from a truck or a distant rumble deep down. This was a constant, violent chatter. We're talking M4 and M5 earthquakes, shaking up towns where people had learned to mostly ignore the earth. And get this, the ground itself is actually swelling, visibly. The Sour Creek and Mallard Lake domes, these huge areas inside the caldera. They've gone up by feet, not just a few inches. This isn't just water moving, obviously. This is something else entirely. Deep below all that, a process that's taken centuries is finally finished. A chamber, mostly solid crystal goo with just 15% liquid rock, hit its breaking point. That tiny percentage where solid turns to liquid, where pressure becomes completely unavoidable. A full-on, catastrophic failure of the Earth's crust. It's an impossible physics problem. And then, it happens. You don't hear the sound travel, it just shows up. Everywhere, all at once. If you're 100 miles away, the acoustic shockwave measures 172 decibels. That's louder than a jet taking off. Louder than almost anything your body was ever meant to handle. It rips eardrums. It turns your insides to mush. It's like the air itself just punches you. It's not an explosion. It's not even an eruption as we usually think of it. It's a literal tear in the continent's structure. And for everything within 100 miles, the world just ends. That first hour is pure, absolute destruction. From the caldera's shattered core, a wave of superheated gas, ash, and pulverized rock blasts outwards. It's a pyroclastic flow, not lava, no, it's faster, way more violent. It's like a fluidized avalanche going over 100 kilometers an hour, hugging the ground, spilling down valleys and over ridges. Inside this cloud, it's 700 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to burn up forests, boil rivers dry, and turn cities to ash before they're even buried. Anything that flow touches, it's gone. Not damaged, not burned, just gone. Yellowstone National Park disappears in minutes. Jackson, Wyoming, Cody, Gardner, Montana, they're just not there anymore. There's no escaping it. There's no warning that would have helped. Just this expanding gray wall of annihilation. This isn't just a natural disaster. It's the planet hitting the reset button. And in the first 12 hours, you only start to see how huge this thing actually is. The eruption column, this pillar of ash and gas wider than a whole city, punches right through the atmosphere. It goes past where commercial jets fly, past the weather, right into the cold, thin air of the stratosphere. It stops going up and starts spreading out. A huge, dark flower, blooming 30 miles above the earth. They call it the umbrella cloud. And here's something they never really told you. It makes its own weather. It plays by its own rules. And the wind, the jet stream, those prevailing westerlies we figure will carry all the bad stuff east, they just don't matter. They never did. Most people assume a Yellowstone eruption would go east, like it'd follow the weather patterns that cross the U.S., from California to New York. That's how normal volcanoes work, right? This isn't normal. A V8 supereruption is so incredibly massive that it completely overpowers the atmosphere. The sheer amount of stuff and energy in that umbrella cloud, which the USGS Ash 3D model has shown us, actually creates its own weather system. The cloud doesn't just drift, it expands, outwards, in every single direction. Basically, as Dr. Maston put it, the eruption creates its own winds. Winds that are stronger than the jet stream. So, as the 13th hour hits, you get this horrifying, totally backward realization. The ash isn't just moving east over Nebraska and Kansas, it's moving west. The eruption's own explosive force is pushing it backwards into Idaho, into Oregon, across the Sierra Nevada and toward the Pacific. A huge plume of volcanic material is being forced upwind against the planet's normal currents, heading straight for the west coast. It's a scenario so fundamentally wrong, so different from any weather map you've ever seen, it feels impossible. Until the sky over Salt Lake City starts to turn dark. By hour 18, millions can't see the sun. From Denver to Boise, a thick, impenetrable blanket of ash has just swallowed the daylight. It's not just a cloudy day. It's not a storm. It's a complete, total lack of light. Midday feels like a starless, moonless midnight. Streetlights turn on, then short out as the gritty dust gets into the transformers. The power grid starts its slow, inevitable collapse. And then the ash begins to fall. Not a gentle dusting, no, it's a heavy, gritty rain of pulverized rock, silica, and glass. In the northern Rocky Mountains, it piles up with terrifying speed. Decimeters, feet, a thick, gray cement that suffocates everything. And these first signs of a new kind of danger start showing up. The weight. Before all this, the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, run by Dr. Michael Poland, watched the park's every move. They tallied the 118 earthquakes that June 2026. They noted the M2.4, the biggest that pretty uneventful month. They tracked the ground bulging around the Sour Creek and Mallard Lake domes, but saw no major uplift. Everything seemed like normal background activity. But they also knew the history. The Lava Creek Tuff eruption, 631,000 years ago, which formed the very caldera that just collapsed. The Mesa Falls Tuff, 1.3 million years ago. The enormous Huckleberry Ridge Tuff, 2.1 million years back. The gaps between them were huge, not consistent. About 800,000 years, then 669,000. That whole Yellowstone is overdue idea? It was a mathematical mistake, people misunderstanding geology. Volcanoes don't operate on a schedule. They operate on physics. And the physics just changed. Those constant hydrothermal explosions, like the one in Biscuit Basin on June 13th, 2026, which opened an 18-meter crack in the earth, they were warnings. Not necessarily of an immediate huge eruption, but just reminders that the system was alive, moving, and powerful. Reminders that the plumbing under the park was restless. Now, that restlessness has shown its absolute ultimate form. By hour 24, the continental U.S. is literally being torn apart. All air travel stops. Not because the FAA said so, but because it's physically impossible. An airplane engine sucking in this much silicate ash doesn't just fail, it melts. The glass particles stick to the turbine blades, the engine can't get air, and it just seizes up completely. The sky is a no-fly zone, created by the planet itself. On the ground, things are just as bad. Ash piling up on roads makes them impassable. A few inches of this fine, low-traction powder is like driving on black ice. A foot of it completely buries cars. Road travel in a widening circle around Wyoming is just impossible. The country's critical transport routes, Interstate 80, Interstate 90, Interstate 15, they're all cut off. Major cities become islands. Denver, Salt Lake City, Billings, isolated. The umbrella cloud now covers a third of the country. It just keeps expanding, pushing west into Nevada and east into the Midwest. The first few millimeters of ash are now hitting the coasts. Los Angeles, New York City. It's a fine, almost invisible powder, but it's a warning shot. A promise of what's coming. The U.S. Geological Survey actually modeled this exact scenario. 330 cubic kilometers of dense rock equivalent ash, burying the continent. What was once a prediction is now just what's happening. Meanwhile, the acoustic shockwave from the initial blast keeps going around the world. 4 hours after the eruption, the sound, now a low, chest-rattling boom, gets heard in England. Just like Krakatoa's sound was heard 3,000 miles away in 1883. It's the Earth's death cry, echoing across oceans. Back in the heartland, the main danger is changing. From hour 24 to 48, it's not the heat of the pyrolastic flow anymore. It's the silent, crushing weight of the ash itself. In Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, the sky is this permanent, bruised twilight. The ashfall is lighter here than in the Rockies. Centimeters, not feet, but it's mixing with the moisture in the air. It's getting wet. And wet ash is exponentially heavier. It sticks to everything, piling up like dense, wet concrete. The main killer of millions in the Midwest? It won't be fire or gas. It'll be things just collapsing. A normal house roof is built to hold a certain weight, right? Pounds per square foot. They factor in snow, rain, wind, but they never calculated for this. Volcanic ash is pulverized rock. An inch of dry ash weighs about 10 pounds per square foot. Manageable, but add water, and that weight can double or triple. A light rain falling through the ash-choked sky is now a catastrophic event. 6 inches of wet ash on a typical 2,000 square foot roof, that can weigh over 60,000 pounds. 30 tons. The house groans, the wood splinters, and then the roof caves in. Homes, hospitals, supermarkets, shelters, they become tombs. In a matter of hours, entire neighborhoods start to crumble under this gray weight. There's no way to clear it, nowhere to put it. The silent, patient pressure is just brutal. Any building with a flat or low-angled roof becomes a death trap. Water has become the second silent killer. Every open water source is now contaminated. Rivers, lakes, reservoirs, they're choked with abrasive, chemically leaching ash. City water treatment plants, which are the backbone of urban life, are just not built for this. Their filters are overwhelmed in hours. The intake pipes get clogged with thick sludge, and if they keep running, they're pumping poison and pulverized glass into the water pipes. So, they shut down. One by one, across hundreds of cities, taps go dry. And you realize there's no clean water. Not in the pipes, not in the rivers, not even in the rain falling from the sky. By hour 36, the crisis is just absolute. Communication is failing. Cell towers lose power. Satellite dishes are buried under ash. That intricate web of tech that holds our modern world together, it's just falling apart. This eruption didn't just blow a hole in Wyoming. It blew a hole in the 21st century itself. It's important to understand what's happening and what's not under Yellowstone. That idea of a huge sloshing lake of lava is a myth. The magma chamber isn't a cavern. The USGS says it's mostly crystal mush, mostly solid rock, with only about 5 to 15% liquid melt in its pores. For a supereruption to happen, this mush needs to become capable of erupting. That takes a massive surge of new, hot magma from the deeper basaltic chamber below. A chamber that itself is only about 2% melt. This injection quickly melts the crystals in the shallower chamber, pushing it past a critical point of about 50% liquid. This process creates immense pressure from gas escaping. It's this unstoppable pressure that finally cracks the crust. Work done by Rice University and the USGS in April 2025 using a 53 0.00-pound vibroseismic truck to map the exact top of the magma reservoir confirmed how shallow it is. Just 5 kilometers down. A terrifyingly thin lid on a planet-sized pressure cooker. And that lid is now just gone. The last time magma reached the surface at Yellowstone, back 70,000 years ago, it wasn't an explosion. It was just a slow lava flow that formed the Pitchstone Plateau. The system has had thousands of years to build pressure to store up energy. The 3 previous supereruptions, Huckleberry Ridge, Mesa Falls, Lava Creek, they were separated by geological ages. They weren't on any human-made schedule. They were like punctuation marks in the deep history of a continent. And the latest sentence has just been written. As hour 48 arrives, the first stage of the disaster is wrapping up, and the second is just beginning. The initial explosive power is fading. The umbrella cloud has reached its biggest size, casting a shadow over most of North America. The continent is paralyzed. But now, the longer-term consequences of this event really start to show up. The biggest one? The climate. The sheer amount of sulfur dioxide and other particles pumped into the stratosphere starts doing its work. These particles bounce sunlight back into space. The planet's thermostat has been messed with. For ages, the popular idea, the Hollywood version of this, was a catastrophic volcanic winter, an ice age that would wipe out humanity, plunging the planet into a frozen darkness it might never recover from. For a while, the science wasn't totally clear on it. Early models predicted global temperature drops of 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, enough to mess up crops worldwide and break the food chain, enough to threaten civilization itself. But here's what the latest science tells you. A really important study from March 2024 by NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies and Columbia University completely changed that prediction. They ran simulations of a TOBA, or Yellowstone-sized supereruption, using the most advanced climate models ever. And they found something different. The global cooling wouldn't go beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Not an ice age. Not a winter that ends all life. Let's be clear though, A 1.5-degree drop in global average temperature is still a climatic catastrophe. It's more than enough to cause widespread crop failures, make growing seasons shorter, and lead to terrible famines. It will change weather patterns for 10 years or more. The world after this eruption will be colder, harsher, and hungrier. But it won't be frozen solid. Humans will survive. Dr. Michael Pollan, who spent his whole career talking about the real risks of Yellowstone, has been pretty blunt about it. He said, a large explosive eruption at Yellowstone will not lead to the end of the human race. The aftermath of such an explosion wouldn't be pleasant. Certainly, but we won't go extinct. How do we know? Because this supereruption experiment has already been run. Twice. He's talking about Yellowstone's own past, and the Toba supereruption in Indonesia 74,000 years ago, an event humanity got through, even if it was incredibly hard. The threat isn't extinction. It's a brutal, unforgiving overhaul of civilization as we know it. Between hour 48 and 72, this new world really starts to take shape. A world where long-distance travel doesn't exist. A world without reliable power or communication. A world where huge parts of a continent are just unlivable. And the main cause of death changes again. Not from pyroclastic flows, not from roofs collapsing, but from not having enough. Thirst, hunger, exposure, cities that used to be busy places for business become traps. They're millions of people unable to leave and unable to find food. The supply chains that feed them, which run on just-in-time delivery, were cut off back at hour 24. No more trucks are coming. No more food is arriving. The political and social structure starts to break down. The federal government, probably crippled itself with its capital buried in ash, struggles to do anything or coordinate a response. Regions are on their own. States become like their own countries, hoarding resources, closing borders. The fight to survive turns inward. And underneath everything, the planet itself has been remade. Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho look like an alien moonscape now. A new caldera, dozens of miles wide, steams in the middle of it all. The old geyser basins, the hot springs, the tourist boardwalks at Black Diamond Pool and Biscuit Basin, they're just part of a forgotten past. The ash layer, meters thick, has created a new geology. It'll be thousands of years before rivers carve new paths, before life comes back to the sterilized soil. For now, there's just this gray silence, a world covered in the remains of a mountain that exploded. The most common geological dangers at Yellowstone were never the supereruption. It was always those constant, smaller hydrothermal explosions. The powerful tectonic earthquakes, like the M7.5 Hebgen Lake quake in 1959. Those were the dangers people lived with, and that the IVO watched every day. They were just symptoms of the bigger system. A system that runs on a 16.5 million-year-old mantle plume, a stationary hotspot that the North American plate has been slowly dragging itself over, leaving a trail of dead calderas from Oregon to Wyoming. Yellowstone isn't the start of that trail. It's just the current end. So, as the 72-hour mark passes, the immediate, violent part is over. The roar of the eruption has faded. The ground has stopped its most violent shaking. But the consequences? They're only just beginning. The ash covering the ground isn't just a blanket. It's the groundwork for a completely different future. A future where farming in America's breadbasket is impossible for 10 years. A future where global politics are completely reshaped by famine and wars over resources. A future where the interconnected, globalized world we knew just doesn't work anymore. The eruption didn't just wipe out a national park. It wiped out an entire era. The arrogance of a civilization that thought it had tamed nature, that it had built systems so strong they could handle anything. In 72 hours, the planet showed us that the ground under our feet isn't solid. The sky above our heads isn't permanent. And the forces that shape our world operate on such huge timescales and with such immense power that our own existence feels like nothing more than a fragile, quick moment of calm. The eruption is over. The fight for what comes next has just begun.